Once we went into space to be part of a race so that people could walk on the moon. Many years have gone by, but again we will fly and return to the sky sometime soon. Can the kids of the earth reach the heavens? Could they answer the biggest of questions? Could they fly through the sky as the stars go by and reach for new worlds as they beckon? Could they fly through the sky as the stars go by and reach for new worlds as they beckon?
Hi, I'm Dr. Jim, a space scientist and a musician. Welcome to Space Quest, where we use stories and songs to talk about space with some special visitors from the future. Do you think kids can go into space? Someday, there could be a girl named Laura and a boy named Tommy with their own spaceships and robot companions who come back from the future to learn how space exploration began. I have a question for you. What should kids study if they want to explore space someday? I'll let you think about that, and we'll get back to it at the end of the show. There might even be some clues along the way as we meet our time-traveling friends.
Hi, Dr. Jim. We were just going over new spaceship designs with Tommy and Laura. They are both space engineers as well as excellent pilots.
Hi, Piper and Vista. Good to see you both again. Why were Tommy and Laura working on a new spaceship design? Did they have a new job to do in space?
It is very nice to see you as well, Dr. Jim. Laura and Tommy are modifying their new ship that can travel through time in anti-space to allow it to reappear anywhere in normal space. This way, they could use it to reach another star, which would normally take a very long time.
That's right. You told me before that they can turn their entire ship into antimatter to travel backward through time. I'm surprised they can do that safely, given what can happen when matter and antimatter come into contact.
If matter and antimatter come together, it could result in a massive explosion. The ship that Tommy and Laura built must stay in anti-space to travel through time, or else it could be very dangerous.
It sounds like they have figured out how to reach another star by traveling through time. Do they reappear after the Milky Way galaxy has rotated in order to skip to the next star? Since the galaxy spins over time, it would be like stepping off a merry-go-round and jumping back on at just the right moment.
That is a highly logical deduction, Dr. Jim. By waiting for the galaxy to rotate, Laura and Tommy never exceed the speed of light in normal space or anti-space. In that way, they can quickly reach another star without breaking any of the laws of physics.
How very clever. If Tommy and Laura designed a spaceship that can do all of that, they must have studied a lot of math and science in school. They would also need to know about astronautical engineering, which is the study of how to design rockets, satellites, and spaceships.
When Tommy grew up on Mars, he spent a lot of time at the Mars Museum to learn about space travel. They had many programs there to teach about space science and engineering. This is how he met Dr. Hans von Bodenheimer, the director of the Mars Museum, who invited Tommy to come work for him as an explorer.
Laura studied astronomy and space navigation when she grew up on her parents' astronomy station near Venus. She had remote access to the educational programs at the Mars Museum, and she scored very well in the online classes. Dr. von Bodenheimer noticed her talents and eventually recruited her to work for the museum just like Tommy.
What sort of online classes did they take from the Mars Museum? Was it all general science and engineering, or did they take specialized classes as well?
The first classes Tommy took were general math and science courses, but later he specialized in space propulsion. He learned about chemical and electric propulsion, but then he began to work on his own ideas about antimatter and time travel.
Laura also started with basic math and science, but she went on to study astronomy, astrophysics, and particle physics. She and Tommy worked together to develop their own approach to using anti-space as a shortcut through normal space and time.
There was a famous physicist named Dr. Richard Feynman who thought that anti-electrons, or positrons, went backward through time. He created special diagrams to illustrate how particles interact with each other, such as this one. Is this the idea behind Tommy and Laura's special spaceship for two?
Yes, another very logical deduction. However, to change matter into antimatter and back again is a very complicated process.
And it can be very dangerous, Dr. Jim.
Well, I'm sure they are very careful about how they do it. What else did Tommy and Laura study in school that helped them become space explorers?
Laura studied history, especially of the early Apollo program, to explore the moon. She also studied music theory, since creativity in one area can benefit many others.
That's a very interesting point, Vista, and it would explain why Laura programmed you to speak in melodies.
Tommy studied humor in addition to his technical classes. It can be quite important to find things that are amusing and share them with others.
It sounds like you might have another joke ready for us. Perhaps you could tell us a bit later?
Thank you, Dr. Jim, for providing a warning to us about Piper's next attempt at humor.
Happy to help out. Of course, Tommy and Laura are space pilots as well. Did they go to special schools to learn how to fly?
Tommy started out by learning to fly gliders on Mars when he was very young. Later, he began to design robotic race cars and jet aircraft, but he dreamed about the stars. Eventually, he designed a new rocket motor based on methane gas.
Laura started to learn to fly in gliders also, in the highest parts of the atmosphere of Venus. Later, she flew jets on Earth and took people and their pets on suborbital flights to the edge of space. This would allow the passengers to experience weightlessness.
Then they began to explore the planets and the moons of the solar system. With their new time ship, Tommy and Laura could reach another star. Let's hear about how they learned to become space explorers in a song called A Spaceship for Two.
Cool.
Conductor Arthur, are we ready to go for a ride with Tommy and Laura in a spaceship for two?
Yes, Dr. Jim. All aboard the rolling rocket. It's time for another space adventure with Tommy and Laura. Here we go.
Tommy took a look around at the sky and at the ground. He began to think about what he could see. Clouds float up, but rain falls down. Diamonds form beneath the ground. Many things exist because of gravity. Tommy's rocket was a blast. Laura's ship was very fast. And together they could go so very far. They combined all that they knew, and they built a ship for two. And someday they might just reach another star. There is science everywhere, on the land and in the air. Tommy learned to see the patterns big and small. He designed fast planes and cars, but he looked up at the stars. He built rockets to explore and see them all. Tommy's rocket was a blast. Laura's ship was very fast, and together they could go so very far. They combined all that they knew, and they built a ship for two. And someday they might just reach another star. Laura loved to watch planes fly as they streaked across the sky. She began to learn to take off and be free. She flew gliders, then fast jets, and took people and their pets to the edge of space to float in zero-G. Tommy's rocket was a blast, Laura's ship was very fast, and together they could go so very far. They combined all that they knew, and they built a ship for two, and someday they might just reach another star. Who can say what they'll learn today to help them on their way? Laura learned to fly in space. It became her favorite place. Tommy left the Earth behind to go explore. There was so much they could see in the realm of mystery. Many moons and planets led them to much more. Tommy's rocket was a blast, Laura's ship was very fast, and together they could go so very far. They combined all that they knew, and they built a ship for two, and someday they might just reach another star. And someday they might just reach another star.
Welcome back, and remember our space question for today. What should kids study if they want to explore space someday? Let's talk with Piper and Vista a bit more to see if we can find any clues.
As Laura studied astronomy, she also learned about the history of the subject. In ancient times, people used their imaginations to see the constellations, although they had different ideas for them.
Yes, people have seen different pictures in the sky throughout history in many different cultures. Today, we recognize 88 different constellations, but there have been many others. Some people see the Little Dipper as a wagon or a trail, and others see the Little Bear.
Many of the currently recognized constellations are animals. It seems that humans are very fond of them.
But you and Vista must know all the constellations that people use, since they help with space navigation. Do you think you'd be up for a little quiz?
We are ready to take your quiz at any time, Dr. Jim, since we are quite familiar with astronomy.
We are expert navigators, of course. We each helped Tommy and Laura tie for first place in the famous asteroid races.
That's true, Piper, but you are the one who miscalculated the landing spot for Tommy's rocket on Mercury. Fortunately, we were able to recover it for him.
That sounds like an interesting story for another time. Let's get started with a quiz about the animals in the sky. Vista and Piper, can you tell me the real names of the animal constellations?
Of course, we can provide the formal name for any animal constellation you say.
Okay. What is the true name of the Little Bear?
The true name of the Little Bear is Ursa Minor.
What is the proper name for the horse with wings?
The horse with wings is known as the constellation of Pegasus.
Very good so far. What is the real name of the Eagle constellation?
The real name of the Eagle constellation is Auriga.
Correct again. What is the correct name for the bull with stars in its eyes?
The constellation of the bull is called Taurus.
There's a big dragon sleeping below the Little Bear. What is its name?
The big sleeping dragon is called Draco.
What is the name of the snake that creeps through the sky on its belly?
The creeping snake constellation is known as Serpens Cauda.
There's a constellation with a climbing goat. What is its name?
The goat climbing up a rise is Capricornus.
This is great. You haven't missed any so far. There's a pair of lions lying in front of the Little Bear in the sky. What are the names of their constellations?
The lions are known as the constellations of Leo and Leo Minor.
Do you know what the lions call the northern lights, Dr. Jim?
Oh, no, Piper. What do the lions call the northern lights?
They call them auroras. Ha 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 ha.
That does not compute, Piper.
Oh, boy. On that note, let's get back to the quiz, shall we? What is the name of the constellation with a pony?
The constellation with the pony is known as Aculeus.
Another constellation has two fish that are swimming in a pair. What is their name?
The constellation with the two fish is called Pisces.
The constellation of the ram is behind the little bear. What is it called?
The ram behind the little bear is called Aries.
There's even a tall giraffe striding across the sky. What is its name?
The striding giraffe constellation is known as Camelopardalis.
That's a big name. Let's try just a couple more. What is the name of the lynx constellation above the little bear?
The Lynx constellation is simply called the Lynx.
Yes, it's the same name. For the last animal constellation, there are two dogs running above the little bear. What are their names?
The names of the two dogs in the constellation are Canis Major and Canis Minor.
You just named 14 constellations without any mistakes, with even a bonus joke from Piper.
It was my pleasure to share one of Tommy's favorite jokes, Dr. Jim.
Thanks for taking my constellation quiz. That was a lot of fun. Would you like to hear a song with all 14 of those animal constellation names in it?
Yes, please sing it for us.
Okay, this song is about a night when Tommy and Laura went out to find animal constellations in the sky by using their imaginations. It's called The Little Bear. On one clear and cloudless night, stars were shining oh so bright. Kids went out to look up at the sky. They saw creatures great and small, then began to name them all. One looked like a horse with wings to fly. They saw the constellations with their imaginations and used the brightest stars that they could see. The North Star showed the little bear. They searched across the sky from there to find where other animals could be. High above the little bear, eagles soared up in the air. Tommy saw a bull with starry eyes. Down below a dragon slept, snakes upon their bellies crept. Laura saw a goat climb up a rise. They saw the constellations with their imaginations and used the brightest stars that they could see. The North Star showed the little bear. They searched across the sky from there to find where other animals could be. Out in front of Little Bear, they saw lions lying there, one beside another in a row. Ponies ran behind the bear, fish were swimming in a pair, rams went charging up a mountain slope. We can see the pictures in the sky if we use the twinkle in our eyes. Tall giraffes went striding by, lynxes leapt up in the sky. Laura saw the dogs begin to run. When the sun began to rise, creatures faded from their eyes. Tommy said that was a lot of fun. They saw the constellations with their imaginations and used the brightest stars that they could see. The North Star showed the little bear. They searched across the sky from there to find where other animals could be. The North Star showed the little bear. They searched across the sky from there to find where other animals could be. When space exploration first started, only plants, animals, and adult people went into space. At some point in the future, it must have become possible for kids to go into space. When did that happen?
Dr. Jim, we can't tell you the details of exactly when that happened, since it could change history, and that could be very dangerous.
Piper is correct. We must calculate our answers very carefully. It would be safe to say that people started to colonize the solar system before their children were able to travel through space by themselves.
I see. And of course, I understand that you need to be careful about telling me too much about the future. Since we send robots out to explore space first, it makes sense the kids of the future would use robots as companions to explore the planets.
And sometimes the robots help each other as well.
I'm glad to hear that, and perhaps the kids of the future could reach another star and answer the biggest of questions, whether there is other life in space. I think that calls for a song. Conductor Arthur, are we ready to follow Tommy and Laura as the stars go by?
Yes, Dr. Jim. All aboard the rolling rocket. It's time for another space adventure with Tommy and Laura. Here we go.
Once we went into space to be part of a race so that people could walk on the moon. Many years have gone by, but again we will fly and return to the sky sometime soon. Can a girl fly through space to a planet? Could she pilot her spaceship and land it? Could she fly through the sky as the stars go by and bring home a space pomegranate? Many robots have flown to the greatest unknown and explored all the worlds of our sun. They have learned many things and gone through Saturn's rings, but there's so much that they haven't done. Can a boy fly through space in a rocket? Could he learn how to steer and to dock it? Could he fly through the sky as the stars go by and keep meteors in his pocket? You could learn to fly as the stars go by and reach for the endless sky. When the sun starts to sigh, many atoms will fly to be caught by the earth and remain. Glowing curtains of light will extend out of sight, painting colors that fall like the rain. Can the kids of the earth catch auroras? Could they have names like Tommy or Laura? Could they fly through the sky as the stars go by and hold northern lights in fedoras? You could learn to fly as the stars go by and reach for the endless sky. There's a world that's nearby with a red-colored sky and some others with ice all around. Some are big balls of gas where you'll never see grass since they don't really have any ground. Can the kids of the earth reach the heavens? Could they answer the biggest of questions? Could they fly through the sky as the stars go by and reach for new worlds as they beckon? Could they fly through the sky as the stars go by and reach for new worlds as they beckon?
Do you remember the question we were going to think about? The question was, what should kids study if they want to explore space someday? We heard lots of clues from Piper and Vista, who talked about many different things that Tommy and Laura studied when they grew up on Mars and Venus. They started out by taking general classes in math, science, and engineering, and then later they specialized in things like astronomy, particle physics, and rocket propulsion. However, to be well-rounded, they also studied the arts, music, history, and even comedy. All of these things contributed to their success as space explorers of the future. So, the answer to today's question is that kids should study math and science if they want to explore space someday. It's also important to study the arts since they can help us to think creatively, which can be a big part of making new scientific discoveries. I'd like to thank my good friends Piper, Vista, and conductor Arthur for joining me today on Space Quest. And you too. Remember, keep your eye on the sky and keep thinking for yourself. I'm Dr. Jim, and I'll see you next time.